Welcome to the Final Score Network and the Final Score Podcast, presented by Team Anders Realtors. I'm Andy. He's former NCAA student athlete and co-host.
Ryan Gam, two-hand monster flush off the inbound. Ryan Gam slam jam. Oh boy.
Find the TFS pod and our playlists wherever you stream your podcast or music. Follow us on X at TheFinalScore35. Oh, and one more note before we get started.
I'd like to apologize to anyone I've not offended yet. Please be patient. I'll get to you shortly.
Welcome into TFS Pod 191. We are back. Week 3 of college football is in the books. Week 4 upon us. Week 2 of the NFL almost done. Got Philly and Atlanta on the TV in the room. So they'll put a bow on it. Congratulations and shout out to Tony and Jamie Gam. Welcomed Luke, I am your father, Anthony Gam. Congrats, Tony and Jamie, as well as congrats, UB and Aunt Julie. First-time grandparents, that's big-time stuff. Looking forward to meet the little guy soon.
Another Gam male to carry on the legacy.
That's right. The Gam name lives on. But nevertheless, we got a lot to talk about. No golf this week. I think President's Cup's next week, so that'll be fun.
Fall swing started, but it's whatever.
Yeah, and we watched like maybe 5 seconds of it. But we got a lot to go over, so let's get to it. Get to it with Tua. I'll start with him. Just a really an unfortunate situation that we probably talked about in 20. I don't remember. I'm sure we did in 2022. We talked about it. His head injuries. He had 2 or 3 concussions that year, and they kept him in the one game.
Short order.
Yeah,
too.
and like the one he was carted off. It was really bad. And then, of course, on Thursday Night Football, scrambles, could have slid, dove forward, like give himself up, doesn't, and just gets hit with this normal hit by Damar Hamlin of all people. And immediately, he's done. His teammates had their hands on their heads. And trainers rushed out. I think that he needs to hang it up because he's young. He's my age, 25, 26 years old. Life is more important than football. I'm sure he could get some sort of, injury settlement. And he already signed a big contract, so I'm sure he could do that. It's not worth it, dude. His brain's probably already looks like Play-Doh. This is not good.
Yeah, I mean, you're just talking about the concussions,
Sad.
not the amount of times the guys hit their head on the ground and get hit and get jarred and everything else that doesn't cause a concussion. I mean, the relentless hits. I mean, that's why guys like Barry, guys like Megatron, they all hung it up early at
Javid Best. Was he the one? He was the one from
Aaron
the
Donald.
Yeah, Javid Best was the guy from the Lions that had a bunch of them, and he just had to stop. He was a really good player, but he just couldn't do it anymore.
Don't want to be a veggie,
No.
CTE. Bad things happen. Junior
Yeah,
Seau.
Look at Antonio Brown. He's not even the same person anymore after he had those horrible head injuries. It's sad, but I think, Tua, you need to hang it up, man. Like, your life is more important long term, and if you ever have kids, playing with your kids, then being Jim McMahon, he's screwed up because of it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Really sad to see.
Speaking of more important things, pod kind of hit the day before, and I could have covered this last week, and I didn't, partially because I kind of wanted to see what America's reaction was going to be on 9/11, 23 years later. And I got to say, this is a non-sports take. I was probably not surprised, but extremely disappointed. Every year, it's less and less. Every year we get away from that tragic event, it's less and less. And I don't care if the stories are the same. There's only so many survivor accounts you can get or whatever. I'm usually riveted by even watching those stories over and over and over again because of all the heroism and the sacrifice that was made for other human beings. As I look around in today's world and just see the cesspool of trash that is, the political fighting, the calls that Donald Trump and the Republicans stand for the end of democracy when they're doing the very thing that stands for the end of democracy by trying to assassinate our former president now twice. I think back to, and I still remember vividly that day, where I was, how it all went down. I often will tell people because they'll ask me what I remember. Most of the people that I work with were in high school at the time, the people on my team, and hearing their stories and recounting theirs. But, I remember also what it was like in this country the day after. People rallied together and wanted to fight fight the evil of the world. And now we're divided in our own country with half evil and half good. Somewhere in the last 23 years in particular, but it's been for a while, we've been losing the focus on God in this country, and it has never been more clear than it is now. It's appalling. It's disgusting. Second assassination attempt on Trump yesterday. We are, and we heard a great, sermon in church the other day about be a river, not a lake. The United States and most of the people are a lake. They're stagnant, and lakes aren't evil, but I'll use that as my jump off, that there's a lot of evil people in this world, and the media perpetuates a lot of it. The same media that perpetuates that won't even cover things like 9/11 anymore, and we won't let it be a distant memory. And we're trying to say that, January 6th was worse than 9/11. It's wearisome. It's beyond disgusting. It's gross. It's foul. It's abhorrent. It's wearisome. It's wearisome that every day you have to get up and wonder what's next in this cesspool of a world, of a country that we live in, and that is a sad thing to say. It puts things in perspective, when it comes to sports. And the one thing I will say as a bouncing off point to sports, the one positive I'll say that's kind of political sports related is guys like Patrick Mahomes or girls like Caitlin Clark, when the media incessantly tries to corner them on who they're going to vote for, because they know that these celebrities have a platform. Taylor Swift's not afraid to tell you who, because she doesn't really care about people. She only cares about herself.
Money.
Mahomes and Clark are like, you know what? Nope, I'm not going to answer your question. I'm just going to tell you, educate yourself and vote. That's the perfect answer. I'll give a little bit of an applaud to, a nod and applause towards those athletes who are taking that stance, which is the right stance. It's not their place to tell anybody who to vote for. It's not their place to encourage people to vote for somebody. It's their place to encourage people to use their voice, to use their brains, not listen to the media, do the research, and make your own choices. So I will applaud Patrick and Caitlin, regardless of who they vote for. Their message is the right one. Less and less Taylor Swift and LeBron James would do this country a whole lot of good. I'll just end that podium at that.
Yep. Second that. All right, let's get to...
we didn't even talk about who we were going to flag.
No, I told you. We're going to do the Giants.
Oh, yeah, Giants.
So
that's right.
New York Football Giants, 0-2, to the dismay of Michael Valenti on the east side.
Tyler Cooper.
Yep. So the Giants came into week 2. Their kicker, Grim Gano, hurt his groin apparently in practice. He was questionable. He's on the injury report. They don't call up a kicker from the practice squad. They bring up 3 guys from the practice squad. They keep him on the active roster, and they decide as soon as the game starts, we're not going to use him. He's too injured. So the Giants didn't kick. They had opportunities to kick field goals. They had opportunities for extra points that they had to go for 2 that they did not get. They ended up losing to Washington, gave up 7 field goals to Washington. They scored on every drive. It was all field goals, no punts.
It's crazy.
7 for 7 with this is their second kicker this year already, Seibert, who kicked for the Lions a couple of years ago. What a failure by the Giants! Like, you didn't.
How do you not fire the staff? Like, we're mad at
Dable's
we're mad at Campbell and his special teams coordinator for the John L. Smith moment against the Bucs yesterday. But like, that's even worse. You know your kicker is going to be on ice, and you need a kicker. And I get it. Like, they're not 100%, but they're 99% on extra points. And
yeah, they don't miss.
You don't have to go for 2, and you win that game, and you're 1-1. Instead, you're 0-2. You lost to a bad but rebuilding Washington team. Ugh, gross.
Not good. Not good, Bob. All right, that's flag this week. Let's get to mailbag. First down.
Got a lot of mailbag.
Yeah, you want to do Chris, and then I can do Mitchapalooza.
Yeah, I got a ton from Chris. Let's say I got to find them. Let's see here. I'm gonna see if I can go back to where we started because there's lots of places. Oh, I didn't watch the one. Chris, you sent me a rules for roomy golfers. Did we miss any? I forgot to look at those. We'll look at those next week. Okay, so here's a good one that he sent me. There are still 16 teams in college football who haven't won a game yet. Who will be the team to stay on the longest? Meaning, who will keep losing the longest? Those teams are Florida State, Florida Atlantic, but I think, didn't they beat FIU? They beat Florida International, I think, this week. Troy, Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State, Charlotte, Old Dominion, Temple, Akron, Kent State, Miami of Ohio, Western Michigan, Houston, UTEP, New Mexico, Wyoming.
I'm going to go Kennesaw. And yes, Florida Atlantic won.
So there's 15.
I'm going to go Kennesaw State.
I'm going to go based on the score of their game. Was it Kent State that got absolutely smashed?
Yeah, they're horrible.
By Tennessee.
Well, for example, Kennesaw State lost to San Jose State by 21. They're not good.
Well, was it Kent State that played?
Yes, and they played
Tennessee?
Penn State this week. Good luck, guys.
It was 64-0 at the half. I'm going to go Kent State. It's harder with the MAC teams, and there's a lot of them in there, because the MAC teams will play the big boys to get the paycheck, and then they play each other, and they ended up usually being okay. Like a team like Miami, not a bad team. Western gave Wisconsin a run, although we know they're not very good. But maybe Kent State and Akron aren't very good. I'm going to say Kent State out of this list, but I'll probably be wrong. Florida State will win eventually. Just I don't know when. But so that's Chris question number 1, which is a good one. Let's see. He just sent me another one. All right, here's a good one, right? Should Illinois and Nebraska be ranked? Have Ryan take the yes position and defend why for 1, while you take the no, and then defend, and then switch it around for the team you do second. So you get to pick Illinois or Nebraska. Should they be ranked?
I'm going to say Nebraska because they've been impressive. I think Raiola. I think that the Raiola thing is a big reason why, because he's played well. He's obviously a freshman. He acts like Mahomes. He's trying to be Mahomes 2.0. Nebraska's got a really solid defense. They just been impressive. I mean, that's as simple as it can be. I mean, they played Colorado's the best team they played, who's not very good, obviously, but I think they have an opportunity to be a top 25 team, honestly, throughout the season with the beginning of the schedule. I mean, Illinois is obviously probably their toughest matchup by far, but I don't know.
And I would take the no.
And Rule's a good coach.
I'll take the no position. I mean, I think they could be, but I don't think they should be now. And here's why. They played UTEP, who's no different than, say, Florida Atlantic from Michigan State. They beat Colorado at home, which Colorado is way overblown. Okay, historically that's a good game, but it wasn't necessarily a good game this year. And again, comparatively, Michigan State won on the road in conference. And then they both played a 1AA. They played Northern Iowa. Michigan State played Prairie View, or a FCS school, whatever you want to call them. Both dismantled them properly. I think Nebraska's good. I think they should be in the getting votes. I don't think they're a top 25 team right now. Conversely, because I have to take the yes on Illinois, I personally don't think Illinois should be ranked either for a lot of the same reasons. I mean, Illinois beat up on Eastern Illinois. They beat a now 1-2 Kansas team, and they smoked a pretty crappy Central Michigan team. But I guess if I have to take the yes, they've progressively gotten better each week, I would say. Kansas was ranked at the time. They can't necessarily help the fact that they're now 1-2 because Kansas got trounced, I think, last week, wasn't it? They're not trounced, but they lost to UNLV.
Yeah.
So I think Illinois is closer, in my opinion, to, I think they're like number 24. I think I'll say yes, they should be number 25 for those reasons. I think Kansas is a tougher foe than Colorado, and if you're looking for, you got to scrape the barrel to get, from 21 to 25, there's your argument.
Yeah. I'm just saying they played nobody. that's my heart. Who was the best team? They played Central.
Central, yeah. And they struggled for a little while with them, too. All right, let's see.
They got Moo Boys, their coach.
We're going to look at that golf one next week, Chris. I've totally forgot to watch
that one next week.
But I've got another couple from Chris. Let's see. Should college football hold the rankings until teams have played a minimum of 3 games against Power 4 competition?
Yes. I mean, even week through, the end of September, 4 or 5 games under the belt with week 0, if they play week 0 and go straight through, there's no way you can run, because obviously Florida State, they're horrible. Like,
Right, and that's strictly based on last year, right? And I'll change it up too by saying you should start with a blank slate. Nobody should be ranked. It should be ranked at the end of September after 4 games, either conference or power conference games. And here's the other thing I'm going to tell you. Every major conference should be playing 10 conference games, so you have 5 home and 5 away and 2 out of conference games. If you want to play one against an FCS foe, whatever, that's fine, but you only 2 non-conference games. I think your non-conference games should be at the beginning of the season, not this SEC patsy bullshit where they play in the second week in November. They all take the week to play FCS schools.
Right.
No more of that. No more of that. And then do the ranking there. And so then, like Chris's point is create a week schedule and play Little Sisters of the Poor in the first 3 weeks, and you're ineligible to be. Oh, he says, and you're ineligible to be ranked. I agree. He's like, I'm trying to figure out how to push the big conferences to play each other versus weak schedules most play now. Totally agree. I think if you cut out one of those non-conference games, and then what I think eventually happens is if you have 2 power conferences rise up, AKA the AFC, NFC of college football, then I think you have built-in crossover games.
Yeah.
I think, like I've talked about that in the pod a couple summers ago where I laid out my plan. I think that's what you do. And you just knock down the other 60-some teams or whatever, the non-Power 4 basically, and you just make them their own division. Like call FCS now 1 AAA, I guess, if you want, and go 1 AA and 1A, kind of like they do in high school ranks. I think that's the way you're going to get there, but until you do that, you're not. Is it good for the little guys? No, because they count on the money from college. For the big schools, Memphis got $1.3 million to go to Florida State. Northern Illinois got a boatload of money to go to Notre Dame. And there's also risk for those teams who are like, obviously Notre Dame and Florida State got nothing out of those. So I agree. Something's got to be done. I do think you just wipe it. Of course, a lot of times the rankings are for reaction, but look at Michigan State's not even getting votes. They got some votes in the coaches poll. They didn't get any votes in the AP poll. I just broke down for you, how is their schedule any different than Nebraska or Illinois?
Not.
No.
They've already played a conference team.
And Illinois hasn't left home yet. Nebraska hasn't left home yet. So, and then Chris's other question is, bigger fall this season that will happen? Could be both 2 parts. To date, he does. He says, bigger fall so far this season, Florida State or Michigan, and who will end the season with a worse record?
We knew that Michigan was not going to be great. I think it's Florida State because of the money that they spend on NIL, and I think Florida State's going to end up with a worse record. I think they might not win 5 games.
Yeah, I don't have their schedule in front of me. I agree. I think Florida State.
Both have quarterback issues, but at least Michigan's a good defense. Florida State's defense isn't even any good.
The only thing that I will say is that there is, and I've talked about this the last couple of weeks in the pod, there is no excuse for paper national champion or not, fake or not, because of clearly all the help that they were getting from their cheating scandal. And don't at me, Michigan fans, because you had a clear advantage in the majority of games for the last 3 years. The thing is a national champion does not leave its cupboard that bare. No. Florida State, at least in theory, got a good quarterback. Now we're seeing how good Jonathan Smith did with him last year at Oregon State, because they had success with him. That's the best he's looked in his career. He is just not a very good quarterback. But Michigan arguably had less at quarterback. They're starting a guy this week who's 3 for 6 on the season and throws, about as accurately as I would. I personally think that they're about equal to date. Florida State's a bigger fall, but Florida State was an example of one player, a la Kenneth Walker, doing the work, and then he got hurt, and then you saw what happened. So I cut Florida State a little bit of slack because they've been a mess for a while. Michigan had an amazing 3-year run, again, aided or not, won the national championship, aided or not. They left very little in the cupboard at the skill positions that are required to win college football games. And I think long term, I do think, look here real quick. Michigan's got USC and Minnesota home the next 2 weeks. Then they go at Washington, off at Illinois, Michigan State home, Oregon home. All their home games are the toughest game. At Indiana, which is certainly not looking very easy now. Week off, Northwestern at home, and then at Ohio State. That's still bodes well because we thought they'd lose to Texas. That still bodes well for an 8-4, 9-3 season.
Yeah,
likely. There's going to be some more competitive games in there, but that is what I would say, Chris. And we'll get to your golf one next week. And you also sent me another really good one today about, and we had to do our homework on this one, Ryan. So you have to remind me, re-ranking, looking at the preseason top 25, but giving our top 25 and seeing how it would compare in this 4-week vein.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, Mitchapalooza, number 1. I know it was against bad competition, but Charles Brantley's pick six was the best defensive play by the Spartans since Cal Halliday's pick six to clinch the Peach Bowl against Pitt. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, that was a
agree.
big one. I mean, I think I go back to Julian Peterson and pick six against Notre
Like
Dame.
since
I know since, but like I'm thinking of big picks that I've seen live.
Charles Brantley to beat Michigan.
Yeah, Charles.
Michigan.
I think it's the biggest one since then.
Yeah, I mean the Halliday one sealed
Because Michigan was moving a little bit with the help of a roughing the
Pitt
quarterback.
was moving too.
Yeah,
and
that's a good question. I will say
yes.
that I haven't really thought about it, Mitch. That's probably at least top 10 electric plays for me in Spartan Stadium. I've seen some good ones. Rocket, Charles Rogers back of the end zone, Herb Hagen against Notre Dame, Smoker to duck it. Like I've seen a lot of really amazing plays in that stadium. That's probably a top 10 type of play. I would compare it to like
pretty sweet.
Reed against Nebraska with the punt return. Again, that was a much more critical moment, but he's going away from the field. He turns around, runs all the way across it, halfway back across it. I mean, he probably ran 175 yards.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Cool. All right, second question. One away. MSU is only favored in one more game the rest of the season per Vegas odds. Does this surprise you considering the start? And I think the one game is Purdue.
Well, that's because Indiana
looks better than that.
We'll talk about them in a minute. We'll give them credit. In Illinois, okay, so they're both 3-0, so that's why. And Rutgers is off to a good start. I still look at the next 5 games. There's a very real opportunity for Michigan State to go 3-2, and I think 3-1 best case, go in 3. I still think Michigan State can squeeze 9 games. I don't think they will, but I think they can. I think it's a little ridiculous for Vegas to put spreads on games that far in advance. Yeah. I saw Ohio State's like a 19.5 point favorite over Michigan at this point in time.
Okay.
That's not going to last.
Third one. This past weekend felt like a 10-year-old throwback. U of M is going back to the Brady Hope days. The Spartans look like the Antonio era teams. The Lions look clunky, and the Tigers are in the hunt. Which of one of these teams surprises you most?
I thought, for me, the Lions are going to be fine. Look, they clearly outplayed Tampa yesterday. They just couldn't score in the red zone. So here's the thing. If they don't have the fire drill, and they probably, then they just need to kick a field goal towards the end of the game, and they probably win that game. That's based on the bare minimum. So, shore up the red zone stuff, and give some credit to Tampa Bay's defense. They still have a good defense, even though they were dinged up. I don't think the Lions is a long-term problem. I think Tampa's a good team. They're a playoff caliber team. You're not going to win every game in the NFL. Nobody's done it since the 70s. Does it suck to lose at home? Yes. Does it suck to go 1-7 in the red zone? Yes. I don't think that's really a surprise. I don't think Michigan State's a surprise. It's not. It's a little bit surprised they're not 3. They're 3-0 instead of 2-1. I think honestly, Michigan's not that big of a surprise because we saw it coming. I think the bigger surprise is the Tigers, although I'm going to go back on the record and say out of the 3 of us, I'm the only one who picked them 500 or better.
I think the Tigers are the most surprising.
I think they're the most surprising because, A, we haven't really seen them much, and I didn't expect much. And their one pitcher, what's his name? Screwball? He's up there in contention for some awards, right? He could win the Triple Crown. Tigers are probably a bigger surprise to me, especially because, maybe midway through we thought they were kind of like, maybe they're going to go 70 and 90 type of thing. But, they're on the trajectory for a good finish. So
yeah, see what happens. Okay, last one. I keep turning my phone off. I keep forgetting that I have a question. Okay, last one. Shout out the Americans for their first Solheim Cup since 2017. They need to introduce a mixed Ryder Cup style event ASAP. Who says no?
I agree. I think there's some really good women's golfers, international and U.S.
It would be pretty fun.
I think it'd be fun. I mean, I want to see like a Charlie smoking darts with who's a big dart smoker for the Europeans that she could play with.
I don't think Miguel Angel Jimenez back in the day.
But somebody like her playing with like Lowry or whatever. I just think I don't know. Maybe it's an every 4 years thing.
Yeah,
or something. It's not like
but every 2 years.
Like, do we really need the President's Cup? Is the Solheim Cup the equivalent to the Ryder Cup?
Yes.
Okay, so get rid of the President's Cup. No offense to the rest of the world, and then make this new mixed event so that internationals can play in that instead of it just being Europeans.
There's a lot of good Asian women golf.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
I like it. Good. That's all Mitchapalooza for the week, and we can move on to second down.
Let me get an ad here. First Down was presented by Norris Sports Group. NSG is a boutique agency of experts with 30-plus years of experience in sports, sponsorship, and much more. Learn more about them today at norrissportsgroup.com.
All right, let's get into second down here. Week 3 college football review. We rip through the Big Ten that we can do at large really quick. Starting with, let's go Bama, Wisconsin. Did not watch it, but I heard it was a drubbing. Bama smoked them 42-10. Milroe, really good game. Van Dyke got hurt for Wisconsin out for the season. I know you were going to do your power rankings, but for me, that would put Wisconsin pretty low because they don't have a run game really either. So that's kind of tough for them. Michigan does not cover against Arkansas State. Did not look good again. They can run the ball because they have one good back and a half, basically. Edwards is good one every 12 games. Okay defense, bad quarterback play, bad receivers. Michigan's not impressive. We already touched on that. I don't really have anything to say about them. I don't watch it, nor do I care to watch that game. I think the funniest outcome was Notre Dame versus Purdue. You knew Notre Dame was going to come in pissed off after losing to Northern Illinois. And they played against Purdue, who could be one of the worst Power 4 teams.
Most points they've ever allowed and the
66-7.
biggest loss they've ever had.
Disgusting. At Purdue, too. Like, I think the spread was only like 10.5. They won by 59 points. That's insane. Pretty funny, though.
I mean, Notre Dame had ripped a 70-yard touchdown with 4 seconds to go in the first half. People thought they were going to take a knee or something.
Insane. Nebraska handled Northern Iowa to no one's surprise. Illinois, 30-9, hardly covers against Central. They're 3-0. Didn't watch it, so I can't tell you much. Minnesota beats Nevada. Nevada's
2 straight shutouts for Minnesota.
Yeah, good run. They have a good run game. Oregon in the Civil War smokes Oregon State. I think Oregon State hung with them. It was 7-7 at the end of the first, and then Oregon just turned on the afterburners and looked more like the Oregon that we thought they would look like.
546 yards of
too. So tough one for the Beavs. I called this one fighting Jason Hansen's Washington State.
Yeah.
Cougs
at Washington
beat Washington 24-19.
Washington really didn't play that bad.
No,
I mean, they had no turnovers. They had really good stats, but they're like the Lions.
Washington State's quarterback's pretty good.
Lions really good stats, and they couldn't finish. It's the same type of thing.
Iowa scored 38 points. How about that?
Yeah, and it was a dicey game. I mean, didn't they bench McNamara for a short time?
Yeah,
anyway?
They put him back in. Yeah, 38-21 they won. That running back Caleb Johnson, he's kind of emerging as one of the better backs in the Big Ten early on in the season. Indiana goes to the Rose Bowl.
Hadn't been there since the 60s.
42-13 win. Blows them out. And they look really good. 3-0. Curtis Rourke, they call him the
430 yards of offense.
Missile or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's
307 yards and 4 tutties.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't played against a real team yet, but...
No, but I mean, that's impressive to go all the way across the country and to play a conference game and get a big win. UCLA, I'm telling you, that second week bye is just an awful thing. It hurts teams. It hurt Purdue, clearly, too. They're the 2 teams that had the second week bye and they absolutely got smashed.
Yeah, it's tough. Then Northwestern, 31-7, they covered. They found the quarterback. I think he threw 227, 2 touchdowns. Maryland goes to Charlottesville, gets a 27-13 win over
Good bounce back after the Michigan State loss.
Good bounce back. Edwards isn't bad. That Ty Felton is kind of also emerging as one of the better receivers in the Big Ten. Michigan State actually held him in check for the most part, which is interesting. Speaking of Michigan State 40-0. Nice win. Did what they needed to do, right? Took care of the ball. Some stupid penalties, they definitely have to clean that up. But the front seven looks really good. I think obviously the injuries are a problem on both sides of the ball.
Lose another guard.
Yeah, it's tough, but I don't have a lot of negatives. I think
Penalties
the
still
penalties are the
probably
biggest thing. I think the play calling was good. I think the wide receivers blocked well. I think the running backs played well. I thought Childs, after he threw that pick with the penalty, looked a lot more sharp and
he made some really, really good throws in that game.
Yeah,
Carter dropped
no fastball. He kind of
threw some change-ups,
threw some nice
dropped a couple of dimes
passes.
in the bucket. Carter's was a little bit well defended, but that was a touchdown.
Then a scramble for a touchdown, a couple good ones. Michigan State special teams, aside from the one bad snap, looked pretty solid. Backups looked good. Glad to see Tommy Schuster get out there and lead a touchdown drive. Looked pretty solid. Coaching was good. Looking forward to it. You do the grades really quick because Mana, I know you.
Mana wanted some grades.
Should we do like every position group or like quarterback? I'd give Childs could be B+, could have been better, I guess. Running backs about the same, I would say.
Quarterbacks collectively they were 20 for 29. You can't really complain about that. Childs, I thought that's the sharpest Childs has looked in his 3 games, consistency wise. I'll give him an A-.
Yeah. Receiver. I think the receiver, Glover being hurt, Isaiah Johnson got to play. He looked pretty good. Gates got in there, looked good. Foster, he had some miscues, but receivers have looked pretty good aside from game 1.
I think they're coming along. He's
also,
looking for the tight ends. I'd give him a B+. I thought the running backs, Lynch Adams gives you some pop. Carter had some burst.
Better.
And, the one big run. So take that out, and he was 7 carries for 31 yards. So, but still, 4 yards a carry, that's not bad.
No.
So I think running game, Michigan State's got enough of a running game to and they got a bunch of bodies in there. So I thought that was good. I think the offensive line is getting better.
Yeah,
they got to stay healthy.
Yeah,
I think it's
one more injury, and it's.
You're looking at some
really,
true freshmen
really
that are moving up in the depth chart. So, it is what it is, right? That's what happens in today's day and age. So, unfortunate there. But I'd give them a solid B. I think they've been pretty good in pass protection, actually. And Childs being able to scramble gives them a little bit. But
I think
they could be better at run blocking, but I think they're decent. I like Michigan State using the fullback a little bit or the H-back. I think that's a really good look on their offense.
And you see the potential there, the growth. That never happened before the last few years.
Yeah.
No growth, you don't see it. And they're playing young guys. Stanton Ramble, for example, he's a really nice player at left tackle. I think he should start the rest of the year. 65 if you don't know names. He's looked pretty good. D-line, there's so many guys that have made plays through 3 games.
Yeah, it's such a great rotation, which is huge.
At D-tackle, at jack edge, at defensive end. They've had guys make plays all across the board. So not just one guy. It's a by-committee thing, and it's really they're very disciplined. I'd say the defense overall has been pretty good. They rally to the ball well. They're pretty disciplined.
Side to side,
they don't have the dudes yet in the secondary per se at corner, but they're doing it. Brantley's played really well so far. Ed Woods is not great, but whatever. Spencer and Martinez are pretty solid. Gross, you know what you're going to get out of them. Linebackers have been pretty good at tackling. I don't like them necessarily in coverage, but that's right.
Who does? Nobody likes the linebacker.
Yeah, some of them, like that Wayne Matthews, he needs to be on third down all the
time.
I
would give the D line really top to bottom an A.
Yeah,
their depth is huge. The linebacker, I would give an A-. I thought they've been solid. I think the defensive backs are probably a B+. I honestly don't know that they could be much better than they've been so far. Woods could turn around and play the ball and not the man, or at least learn how to read a pair of eyes.
Right. Special teams pretty decent aside from the bad snap.
That was his first missed PAT, but he's been money. Punting game is good. I had a good return in the punt game.
Yeah.
So I think that's holding up better. The penalties, like 4 of them were 15-yard variety again, and some of those I need to go back and watch it, but were kind of shaky from the text that I was getting during the game. So, that could burn you in a big game, obviously, so they got to still shore that up, but I don't mind having some things to work on. But all in all, for Michigan State, they won a game they were supposed to win in the way they were supposed to win, and that really hasn't happened in a while. Those are no-win games usually because you're expected to blow people out. Michigan State did that. They did it well. They got a lot of guys involved. They did what they were supposed to do and needed to do. And they're in good shape going into this week. They got a good chance on the road this week to make another statement. So, looking at, let's see.
Want to do college football at large really quick? Kansas State smoked Arizona. That was interesting. Kansas State's a good team. Arch Manning, has he arrived? Question about that later, possibly. Sneak peek. Georgia, they had their moment that they have
They're horrible in SEC
year,
openers
that they've had for the last 3 years. 13-12. Mark Stoops is a not going for it from the Georgia 45 down 1 against the number 1 team with like 2 minutes left. What are you doing? He's an idiot.
Yeah.
Missouri beat Boston College. That's Michigan State's next opponent. We'll talk about that later. Tennessee 71-0 over Kent
64
State.
in the first half.
Nuts. Miami 62-0 over Ball State. It was a bad week for the MAC.
They got a lot of money, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's about it. LSU. I heard that game was controversial. The LSU South Carolina finish was very controversial. Some bad calls in that one. Pitt won the backyard brawl, and Narduzzi was complaining about the officiating. Said we beat West Virginia and the officials.
Was it at West Virginia?
It was at Heinz Field.
Acrisure.
Heinz Field. That's really it, though. I don't really have anything else crazy college football wise.
Yeah, I'll do my weekly grades, and then I've got my power rankings for the Big Ten. So A is for awesome UNLV, first 3-0 start since 1984.
Rebs.
Indiana, largest conference road win since 2001. In Minnesota, 2 straight shutouts. B is for better than expected, even though they lost. Kentucky. Oregon finally woke up. C is for, come on, man. UGA, I don't get the struggles in the SEC openers. Purdue, we talked about, worst loss in most points allowed ever. Michigan quarterback play. Prairie View A&M players fingering buttholes in the pile. Come on, man. Illinois ranked and why, prior to Chris's question. D is for duly noted. The U, 750 yards of offense and then 62-0 win, Ryan just talked about. Tennessee, 64 in the first half. Arch Manning with 5 touchdowns in his debut. Well, not as more than a mop-up debut, we'll say. And F is for fraud. Wisconsin, Florida State. And by the way, Florida State paid Memphis $1.3 million to get that loss. Yeah. And then power rankings. After that drubbing, I put UCLA dead last, down a spot. Purdue is closely behind them at 17. They dropped 3. Northwestern moves up a spot, 16. Minnesota moves up to spot, 15. I got Michigan dropping a spot to 14. I'm just not impressed. Their offense is just not impressive. Didn't cover against the team they should have blown out. Wisconsin, I got dropping 4 spots at 13th. Maryland, Rutgers, Washington holding at 12, 11, 10, even though Washington had a tough loss at home. Indiana, the big mover of the week, up 5 spots to the 9th slot. Michigan State in holding at 8, Illinois holding at 7, Iowa holding at 6. I had Nebraska dropping a spot and Penn State dropping a spot for not playing, just so Oregon could leapfrog them. I think Oregon's better than them anyway. And they finally woke up, and then I got Ohio State 2 and USC 1. So
nice. That
is the Big Ten power rankings.
I think Wisconsin's in deep doo-doo. All right, let's get to NFL roundup. We did not do this last week. We will go through this quick this week. Got the Eagles, Falcons right now. Like I said before, Falcons up 3-0 as we speak. Bills obviously blew out the Dolphins. It looked pretty good. I'm going to keep it short about the Lions. After the 24-hour rule, I feel a bit better about it. I think that it's going to be an anomaly that the Lions are going to. I don't know why they threw the ball so many times. They're going to come out against the Cardinals and smash them on the ground. They're not a good rush defense, so I think the Lions are going to establish the run and stick with it. and get back to their bread and butter for Jared Goff, which is play action, the intermediate game, not deep routes. Every once in a while.
You got to go deep to JMO. You got to get the ball to Laporta more often.
Yeah,
they definitely targeted Amon-Ra a lot more.
Yeah.
The running backs had 140 yards rushing. I just think they kind
Get
of
a little too cute. They stuck with their game plan.
They outthought themselves, in my opinion. And look, Campbell rightly took the brunt of it, but like the special teams coach, especially in the NFL, how do you not have your guys knowing that we're going to easily go out there and spike the ball? Goff shouldn't have chosen to throw it across the middle anyway, but even with that, they spiked the ball no problem with 3 seconds left. There was plenty of time to get that kick in. That's a chip shot. You make that, it's a whole nother ball game at the end. But again, take care of the ball in the red zone and score some touchdowns. Even one more touchdown and you win the game. So those are correctable problems. That's the nice thing. Hutchinson was his typical feast or famine. He fed.
He was really good.
He fed and had 4.5 sacks. That's great. I thought the Lions got good pressure. I think they're getting some untimely penalties here or there, but generally speaking, they're much more shored up. I feel like on defense, they just need to not overthink themselves. So sometimes get on the road, have a little bitter taste in your mouth is not necessarily a bad thing. I'll tell you the team that's most impressed me so far. Man. 44 points over 40 again.
They didn't do squat on offense last year, and Kamara 3 rushing touchdowns and a long receiving one. That's crazy. And the Cowboys are good. Packers won without Love. That's Colts are 0-2. Yikes. Titans, I think they might be one of the worst teams. They're horrible. Will Levis sucks. Really big surprise. Vikings 2-0. Sam Darnold. What the? You know what?
Yeah, but JJ's hurt.
Yeah, he's hurt again. 49ers 1-1. C-Max on IR. Debo might go on. Like, what's happening? Seahawks 2-0. Beat the Patriots.
Seahawks do well coming east for those 1 o'clock games.
Lions play them in a few weeks again. 1 o'clock. Giants, Commanders. We already talked about that one. Chargers 26-3.
Carolina is the Bryce.
You see what happened?
Is the Bryce Young?
That's one of my questions later. But did you see the news that he got benched?
Yeah, that's what
Andy
I'm saying.
Dalton,
is the era over? That is waving the flag on. We blew the number 1 pick. While Stroud is
Stroud is. We can talk about that. That game was close. It's 19-13. The Bears' defense is solid, but C.J. Stroud is. Does not play like a second-year guy. He plays more like a 4th or 5th-year guy that's been in the league for a long time. He
commands that offense.
He's a good guy too, right? He's not
the throw that he made in the first quarter where he was going. He threw it against his body while he was running out of bounds. Was an absolute dart.
Yeah, he's the real deal.
Pittsburgh's getting by on good defense. 2-0.
How about that, huh?
2-0, and I don't know how.
Jags 0-2, continuing their schneid from last year. Ravens 0-2. That does not happen too often. I think I heard it the first time since 2015. They started 0-2.
Kansas City probably should have been 1-1. A lot of people.
A crazy game.
It wasn't a phantom pass interference. A lot of people were mad about that, but it was the right call.
Yeah, another great game between the Chiefs and Bengals, though.
Yep.
It always happens. Cardinals smoked the Rams. The Rams could be in trouble. Kupp on
both
IR.
Their top receivers
Puka
are on
IR. Jonah Jackson's on IR. A couple of their other offensive linemen are on IR. Stafford's not necessarily the definition of health in the
especially when he's got his third stringers.
So we'll see what happens. But another great week in the NFL. I think there's 2 Monday night games next week, so that'll be fun. I don't think I have anything else NFL wise. If you don't, we could get to
Eagles just scored, so they're up.
Yep. Get to 4th down. You want to do the ad read really quick, and then we can.
Now a word from our presenting sponsor, Team Anders Realty, will help you find the home that fits your wants and needs, and then make the process simple and fun along the way. The Anders have served thousands of clients for 30-plus years in the West Michigan area and are here to serve you today. Learn more from our presenting sponsor at teamanders.com.
All right, week 4 preview for CFB. Let's get to it. NFL, couple games. We'll do 1 game in here mostly. Big Ten, like we always do. Illinois, Nebraska. We're going straight up in this one. Ranked matchup. Friday night lights in Lincoln. I didn't have that one in my bingo card. Ranked Illinois, Nebraska, Week 4. I'm going Cornhuskers though. I think the home field advantage does it for them. But I hope it's a good game.
I think it'll be a good game. I don't think we've really seen anything great out of either of them. I think we've seen some good out of them, but I think Nebraska's a better team. I think Nebraska wins that. How did we go last week, by the way?
Pretty good week for both of us. I went 9-5. You went 10-4. So keeping pace. That puts us for the season overall 37-31. You're 33-35.
Got a little bit of work to do.
Yep, but we're improving. We did better this week than we did last week. But you said Nebraska.
I got Nebraska. Well. Yep.
All right. Ohio State. Oh, what a great game! Big noon kickoff. Ohio State versus Marshall. 39.5 is the spread. I think Ohio State covers this. Marshall sucks, and their stupid Mel Tucker looking coach, who MSU fans for God knows what reason wanted him. We would be 1-2 if he was our coach. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Yeah. I mean, I hate those big spreads, but coming off of a bye, I don't know that an early season bye helps that much. I'll go Ohio State to cover that. They're rolling right now. So,
how about this one? Charlotte versus Indiana. 27.5 is it, and Charlotte is horrible.
Indiana.
I think Indiana's going to cover it easily.
Indiana's been on a roll, 77-42 in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, what world do we live in? I made this spread because there's none when I looked. But this isn't a basketball game. Villanova versus Maryland. Back-to-back weeks would be good basketball games for Maryland. I made it 37.5 because Villanova's FCS. I'm going to say Maryland covers it hardly.
I'm going Villanova. I don't think Maryland's going to cover that.
I don't know anything about Villanova football.
I heard Jay Wright's their coach.
Hopefully not Kyle Neptune. All right, Penn State, Kent State, 48.5. Penn State's going to cover this. I have no faith in Kent State.
The only thing is Penn State, who was it that they struggled against?
Bowling Green.
Bowling Green. Kent State gave up 71 burger with basically probably a running clock and 8 stringers in against Tennessee, but Tennessee's got a more dynamic offense. I think 48.5. That's the spread.
Yeah.
I think Kent State covers that.
Wow, you're bold. All right, to the big house. USC, Michigan. USC, pretty slight favorite. I'm rolling. We're going straight up here. I'm rolling with
I'd take USC to cover whatever their spread is.
I think USC wins this game 31-10. I think they're going to blow them out. I really do. And that stadium's going to empty pretty early.
Yeah, I think the orgy experience is not going to last for very long.
It's going to be a short orgy.
They're going to... I'm not an orgy guy. I'd have to get... What does he say? What does Seinfeld say?
I'd have to get new
robes. I'd have to get velvet robes. I just...
New curtains, new friends.
I don't think he's the difference. I mean, he can't throw. Yeah, he's athletic, no question about it, but he's not the answer. I think USC is going to roll in that game.
How about this one? Rutgers travels to Virginia Tech. This could be a good one. I'm going with the Hokies. I think the Hokies use Enter Sandman to their advantage here, and this is Rutgers' first test. I think that they lose it. They were off last week too, weren't they?
They were. Vatek lost to. They rebounded after they lost to Vandy, right? Yeah, I think. The only thing I'm going to go with is just because it's what we picked at the beginning of the year, where we picked Rutgers to lose this. So I'm going to go with Vatek.
Go Hokies.
Wouldn't surprise me if Rutgers wins.
How about this one? UCLA travels to Baton Rouge. 23.5.
That's it. Spread. Oh, LSU's going to cover that easily.
Yeah. LSU's not fantastic, but UCLA is by far the worst team in the Big Ten.
I agree.
Northwestern travels to Washington. Was that a Rose Bowl game back in the day?
Yeah.
When Northwestern went to the Rose Bowl? Was that what it was? Brian Goins?
I think it was, yeah. I think it was Northwestern.
I think it's close spread.
Washington's good, right? They lost a game. They're
a bowl team.
Yeah,
Northwestern's not.
Yeah, Washington.
First road game for Northwestern away from their 5,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
The battle for the Floyd of Rosedale.
Yeah, that's actually
Minnesota,
a sneaky
Iowa.
good game.
I think that's NBC Saturday Night Football.
Yeah, both 2-1 at Minnesota.
Finally, NBC will get a decent game. I'm going to go Iowa here, though. I think their defense is just good. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think this is going to be like 13-10.
Yeah, both teams have a really
3 yards in a cloud of dust Big Ten football game.
Both teams have a really good defense, but I think the difference is, I can't believe I'm saying this, is that Iowa's offense is better.
Yeah, their run game's pretty solid.
So I mean, Minnesota really should be 3-0, and it would not surprise me to see them win. But I think I'm going to go with the original pick for the season and say Iowa's going to win this game.
Purdue travels to Corvallis, Oregon State. I'm going to go Oregon State. It's straight up. I'm going with the Beavs. Purdue, they've shown me nothing.
I mean, blowout notwithstanding last week, it's
suck.
hard to go west. Purdue clearly is not very good. So
Big Ten struggles going west. And then last but not least in the Big Ten, Michigan State travels to Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts to take on Boston College Golden Eagles for the first. Is it Golden Eagles or just Eagles?
That's a good question. I think
it's just Eagles.
I think it's the Eagles.
I don't know. First time since 2007 with Matt Ryan. We were there, Champ Sports Bowl. We lost. Heartbreaker. Red Bandana game for Boston College. Pretty cool story. If you have not checked that out, please do.
From 9/11, yeah.
Boston College has been kind of the talk of the town. Bill O'Brien back in college football, revamped their roster a little bit. He's a good coach. They got a good quarterback, Thomas Castellanos, good runner. And they beat Florida State on the road, gave Missouri a good test.
Florida State's not very good. Missouri is pretty good though, and they were up 14-0 on Missouri.
I made my pick last night, and I'm going to be honest, I said BC, but something in my gut tells me that Michigan State goes in there with their hair on fire and pulls out an upset victory over Boston College and is 4-0 playing Ohio State next weekend. I don't know why. I just have this feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you called it a couple weeks ago, like a measure up.
I was going to say, I forgot to. This is the D'Antonio. This is where we measure up. This is where we see where we're at. This is a great test against a good team. It's in a similar, type situation. Obviously, this is not a bad. Jeff Hafley left them in a lot better shape than Mel Tucker left Michigan State in. He just left because he didn't want to deal with the NIL crap anymore. So I don't blame him. This is a measure up game. This is where we see where we're at. And if Michigan State waltzes in and gets a win here, like I think they will, I mean, you're ahead of schedule and you're 4-0 going against an Ohio State team at home. You're going to have a night game with a great crowd, and that could be pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Michigan State can win this game, the next 5 at BC, Ohio State, at Oregon, by Iowa, at Michigan, that definitely tells me they can go 3-2 in that stretch, which puts them definitely ahead of schedule. So, because that 4-game gauntlet after is looking rough, but I think Iowa and Michigan are both way more beatable than we thought they would be. This is not going to be easy. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Michigan State wins similar to how they did at Maryland with a late field goal.
Yeah, I'm saying 24-21. All right, last one. Lions travel to State Farm Stadium out in Glendale, Arizona, play the Cardinals. Cardinals have looked good. I think the Lions are going to have a sour taste in their mouth from this past weekend. I think it'll be closer than close, but I also have a feeling that they could blow them out. I don't know. I'm going to say Lions win this one, though. Get to 2-1, get back on schedule.
Yeah, I'm just wanting to look back and see. The Arizona played Buffalo, blew a pretty good lead in the opener.
Their first
gave up,
team.
Gave up 352 yards. Arizona was pretty balanced in that game. Let's see, how were they yesterday? Bear with me a second. Arizona yesterday against the depleted Rams, they racked it up. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think that the Lions pull this one out and kind of get that one back, and 2-1 is going to be a good start to the season. So get that first road win. I think the makings of a really good team is to go and beat decent teams on the road, and I think that will happen this week.
Yep, I agree. All right, let's sprint this thing home. Looking ahead to the President's Cup next week. Who do you think's going to be the U.S. stud Who's going to have the best week?
Man, you got to remind me of some of the guys. Scotty.
I'm going to say Cantlay.
I can
No
see
hat,
it.
Pat.
Cantlay does show up money on those things, but I'm going to go Scheffler. He's just been so dominant all year.
FSU is the most overhyped team since fill in the blank.
Good question. I feel like perennially Texas A&M is overhyped. I feel like often Notre Dame is fairly overhyped. I feel like clearly this year going into the year, Michigan was way overhyped because people don't want to admit what they have. They're pretty dang overhyped, though. Florida State.
Preseason top 10, you suck.
I have to do my homework, but I mean...
The one, there's definitely been some before, but that comes to mind is Michigan State and Notre Dame in 2016, both top 10 teams during the season, and they played each other, and we thought, Michigan State's going to have an amazing season.
Won,
and
three,
they
four
won
games that year?
3 games. They won 1 game the rest of the season, and Notre Dame went 3-9 also.
Yeah.
That's the last. I didn't really. I could have obviously researched, a top 25.
No, but that's that was
a
a good one. Yeah, 2 top 10 teams.
Yep. All right. Is Arch Manning the next big thing? I mean,
look, oftentimes guys that get that kind of hype, you're like, yeah, let's see it when it happens. I mean, here's the thing. I'm going to find you his stats because they were
I'm going to say
pretty
yes.
remarkable.
Small sample size. But...
small sample size, but I mean, I think he did everything that you would expect a guy of his caliber to do. So Ewers goes down early. He comes in. Manning was 9 for 12 for 223 with 4 touchdowns. He had a 67-yard touchdown run and a touchdown. So he had 5 touchdowns accounted for. He spread the ball around a little bit. Now, UTSA is not that great, obviously, but still, like to come into a game situation when you're maybe expecting some mop-up duty in the game, but to come in early, yeah, he's the real deal. He is a freak of an athlete for somebody his size.
Yeah, he is.
Did not get that from his Uncle Peyton.
No. Or Eli.
Right.
All right, last one is Bryce Young. Can we consider Bryce Young a bust now?
I mean, it's technically still early. He's only 2 games into his second year. But to get benched is horrible for his vote of confidence. Compared to Stroud, yes. Is he in the kind of the makings of Bug-Eye Fields? Maybe, but Fields has led Pittsburgh to 2 wins. I don't think he has much around him. That's why I think. Yeah, that's the one thing. That's the one problem I have is like you got this guy just a year ago. You're bad. You're really bad. But like if you're not willing and able to invest around him, then you may as well cut bait now, right? Like so. I get being mad and benching him. I'm not going to say he's a bust yet because his career could be revived somewhere else with somebody that can maybe teach him. I think a lot of it has to do with how well guys can teach quarterbacks.
Yeah. I'm going to say
I always thought he was kind of small, honestly, and he played on a pro-rich team at Alabama.
Yeah.
But,
I'm undecided.
I'm undecided.
Or incomplete. Right.
And at some point, he's going to be back in there. Maybe they benched him because they want to work with him on the side and take the pressure off of him, to give him a fighting chance. I don't know. But, see, this is why the tack that the Packers took, and Rodgers hated it when they did it, and probably Favre hated it when they did it to him, but like they got a guy and they let him be there for like 3 years to learn the system and learn behind a stud. And Jordan Love developed on his own timeline to be a really good quarterback.
Yep.
And Aaron Rodgers did it. There's something to be said. Like there are way more of those than there are CJ Strouds. I still don't think that Williams for the Bears is ready to go. I just don't think Daniels for the Redskins. I get the fascination with putting these guys out there, but in my opinion, you're setting guys up for
look
failure.
Actually, the Patriots are doing it correctly. They don't have Drake May. He could earn it.
Yeah.
In week 4 or 5, but
Right.
they had Jacoby Brissett and they're 1-1. Like they almost beat the
That's
Seahawks.
honestly that's what the Giants did. Remember, they had Kurt Warner as a stopgap when Eli Manning was a
Mm-hmm.
rookie, and then they by 6 games in they handed the reins over to Eli
It
Manning.
happens.
It wasn't because
happens a lot.
Warner was playing bad either. And Warner's career was revived in Arizona anyway, where he led them to a Super Bowl. I think you don't rush guys in. I think the Panthers did him a disservice. They traded away probably a lot to get that spot anyway.
They did.
You look at, meanwhile, the Texans sat there. They got the better quarterback and they got a stud defensive player in Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think I think it's too early to say he's a bust, but I think the Panthers have done him no favors.
Yeah, they've done him a great disservice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's 191. We appreciate you guys listening. Let us know if you have any questions you want us to tackle in the future. But thanks for
Mitch and Chris, we appreciate
supporting.
all the great questions. Yep. Chris, we already have 2 for next week, so
yeah, we're
keep them coming.
We're humming along. We're almost at 200. That is pretty wild. In almost 4 years of this, so that's been a crazy ride, but great.
All right, as the great who I've never heard of Warren Wiersbe once said, "Happy is the man who has learned to hold the things of this world with a loose hand."